Good evening, this is Mrs. Brown from Research Triangle High School. The purpose of this video is to talk a little bit about the different types of conflict that we see in the novel Cry the Beloved Country, and to understand how the different types of conflict play out in the course of the story and the characters. Now, first, just a little bit of review. There are several different types of conflict that you can see in many different types of literature. We have, first of all, the struggle against the force of nature. This is sometimes called person versus nature. The struggle against another person, which is probably the most common type of conflict in literature. These are people fighting against each other for some reason or other. This could be anything from just a mother-daughter fighting over clothes to several countries all at war. And then you have the struggle against society as a force, and this is when an individual or group of individuals are trying to fight against something larger in the culture that they're trying to change. You might have the struggle against conflicting items within oneself, where the whole story is somebody trying to solve some problem. Perhaps they're trying to overcome an addiction or try to make a very difficult decision, but the struggle is mainly internal. And finally, you have a struggle against fate or destiny, and these are things like your Greek literature pieces, Romeo and Juliet, where they're really trying to fight against these outside forces and powers that are aligned against them. And those are the basic types of conflict that you'll find in any kind of literature. Now, in Cry the Beloved Country, you can find examples of almost all of these. The struggle against the forces of nature we see with the physical problems that people are trying to solve. They're hungry. The ground's not producing enough crops, so they have to struggle for absolute survival. There's droughts. There's a lot of sickness and disease, and the need for shelter from the elements. There's this housing shortage and people who don't have any place to stay that's out of the elements, and then they have to deal with the sickness. That whole little bit about shantytown going up and the child that dies for the lack of medical care. Then you have the struggle against another person, and this is the conflicts that we see within the families. Gertrude versus Khumalo, Khumalo versus his son, and the fights and things that they're having between themselves. Then you have the struggle against society as a force, and this is probably one of the overarching conflicts of the whole novel. This is the idea of apartheid in general and the effects of prejudice on these people. And finally, the struggle against conflicting items within oneself. We see several characters, mostly Stephen Khumalo, struggling against fear and in trying to keep and maintain their faith in the face of all of this damaging information and trials that they are going through. Now, it's interesting to note that as much as this is a video about apartheid, you think that the main struggle would be black versus white, but it's actually not. Note that individual black versus white is never the dominant conflict. This is not a story about one black man hating one white man or one white man hating another black man. Now, the force of apartheid and prejudice certainly come in, but it's not this individual conflict. Notice that Jarvis and Khumalo were not against each other. They're two people thrown into miserable situations, and neither one blames the other for any of it. Arthur and Absalom are not even against each other, even though one ends up dead. Arthur was actually working to try to improve the lives of blacks in South Africa, and Absalom did not go to this robbery intending to kill or injure anyone, and did not mean for this to happen. So it wasn't like there was this vendetta that they are fighting about because of the color issues. So as you continue reading, though, do take note. What is it with these conflicts in the book? What is lost in these struggles, and are there any victories? Is there anything that they win? Does the conflict win out, and what does it cost them in these conflicts that they're dealing with? And finally, now you're 2/3 of the way through the book. You're through book 1 and book 2 and just book 3 left. Where is the highest point of conflict, what we call the literary climax of a story? And this is the highest point of emotional interest, where the conflict reaches its turning point, and the point at which one force starts to win out, and the rising action reverses and starts to become the falling action. So keep an eye out for where you think this moment actually occurs in Cry the Beloved Country. And that's it for this video. Good night.